So our company, Nexus, was established back in 2002 as a car, battery, and vehicle electronics parts manufacturer. They were using this for big name companies like Tesla and many others alike. They capitalized further then on this expertise in car battery and manufacturing parts to then make the decision to expand into full on electric vehicle manufacturing and distribution after hiring some lead engineers in the industry. They had a slow start, being a new car making company, but with growing success starting in Las Vegas, Nevada, their name spread throughout the western states and then eventually into the eastern and central states. They offered both affordable prices with long battery life while sticking with a slick style that car enthusiasts and other casual drivers could appreciate. By 2022, they were a well established brand in the EV industry across all the states, and now coming around in 2025, they are considering international expansion. The company prides itself on its strong task oriented culture focus, and Nexus aims to meet consumer demands by emphasizing efficiency, productivity, and achieving goals. There are clear schedules, procedures, and roles that are followed to ensure deadlines are met, and the company is running like a well oiled machine. Along with this, there is a clear streamlined communication that is expected of all hierarchical statuses within the company, and Nexus does well to follow through with this and their standards, and as well in communication throughout all their processes of manufacturing and distribution. Furthermore, giving individuals who shine above the rest the recognition they deserve by showing reliability, accountability, and competence in your role, you can expect great things to follow within Nexus. This does not go to say that they do not let teams go unnoticed, because they do promote working collectively to meet goals, which is vital to Nexus's explosive success in the United States. Moving on, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the introduction to the industry, that being the EV market. This, which has many other notable names of competition today, as I mentioned earlier, Tesla, even some such as Nissan have been good, Kia, Hyundai, General Motors, BMW, and much more. Tesla, namely, because that is the most common brand that we probably see today, started up in 2003 and made big waves in the EV industry along with long-standing car manufacturing Nissan. Along with these two big manufacturers and many others, they brought the competition and other hybrids as well as full-on EV vehicles to what we see today. Pulling us back to the past a bit, though, the EV industry actually started as far back as the 1820s. In the early parts of the century, innovators in Hungary and Netherlands and in the United States, including a blacksmith in Vermont, began toying with the concept of battery-powered vehicles, as you can see on images provided here, or the image. But recently, or in our time, in the 1990s and early 2000s, when EVs really began to pick up, like I mentioned with Tesla. But another big notable name that helped with this growing success of electric vehicles and hybrids was Toyota with their first generation Prius, which launched in 1997 and was the first mass-produced hybrid passenger vehicle, sparking a chain reaction of increasing attempts to make hybrid vehicles and other EVs that we see now. I'm now going to pass it off to Taha to talk about the target market.
Hi, yes. I'm going to talk about target market analysis in Canada. So, electric vehicles and EV adaptation in Canada is rising, reaching a record 18.9 of new vehicle registration in quarter four in 2024. For example, in Quebec, led at 42, followed by British Columbia at 22.5. This reflects the shift in customers' behavior by driving environmental concerns and long-term savings. As you can know, you don't have to spend for money for gas, oil changes, so it saves you a lot of money in the long term. And then, and federal government supports this transitions with incentives in order to meet target of 100% EV sales by 2035. And they'll give you up to $5,000 per vehicle and has an enhanced tax write-off for businesses. And then many provinces add their own rebates, boosting an opportunity for growth. And adaptation is strong in cities like Toronto, Vancouver, and thanks to better charging access to public awareness. Next page, please. Yeah, thank you. And then we're going to talk about target customers. So most EVs buyers are ranged from the age 30 to 55, and mostly they are middle to high income classes. And those are the people that usually buy most of these EV cars. And then adaptation is strongly increasing in major cities and growing in smaller urban centers, showing in border national interest. And as you know, there's as well um, hurdles to it. Despite growing in interest, EV adaptation faces a lot of hurdles: range anxiety, high upfront cost, cold weather battery issues, and limited selection of large EVs. And charging infrastructure remains adequate, especially in less popular areas. As well, I have an example. Not too long ago, we took a long trip to Monterey, close to San Jose. It's supposed to take 7 hours in a regular car, and we said since it's an electric car, it's going to take us about like 8 to 9 hours. Keep in mind the car was not Tesla; it was another brand. And then at the end, it took us 14 hours because the charging station was really bad. You only have like two stations where you can charge, and they're like five cars waiting, and you have to wait sometimes an hour or two. So it's very frustrating if you don't have a Tesla right now. And then to close this gap, federal government is ruling out a national strategy to expand charging network and promote an EV ready building standards. Next page, please. Slides. Thank you. So competitive and future opportunity. Um, going competition Canada EV market is becoming more competitive. Like we said, Tesla, Hyundai, Toyota, and Chevrolet, or General Motor in general. Lead sales, even Rivian, Lucid, and Chinese automakers are entering the scene as well. Canadian firms such as Magma and Lion Electrics are growing in the commercial EV sector, and the future market opportunities. Future growth lies in the rural and suburban expansion, customer education, etc., cost saving, increase in winter performance because we know as the electric batteries they don't perform as well in cold temperature. And then fleet electrification also presents a strong opportunity for a business aiming to cut costs and meet the goals. And overall, while Canada EV market faces a hurdle, its foundation is strong, held by policies, innovation, and growing customers' interest. And then I'm gonna pass it to Jennifer right now.
Thank you, Taha. In order for us to fully evaluate our international plan, we must analyze US and Canada's culture. Both of these countries have a high individualism scores, which means that people are expected to take care of themselves and their immediate family only. Um, well, this isn't a negative thing as particularly, but this does encourage personal achievement and a capitalist economy. And within a workplace, what this looks like is that there is a mindset where everyone, like employees, are encouraged to express opinions and pursue their own personal goals. That being said, we also see a high value within both of these countries for autonomy and freedom. This has led to immigration, which has provided high diversity rates for both of these countries. Um, and because of these high diversity rates, there have been multiple cultures that have learned to coexist, and they also influence one another within these countries. This has allowed for innovation within the workplace, outside of the workplace, and it also allows for many perspectives that are so condensed in little spaces because of this high diversity. Um, and within both of these countries, the culture has evolved to where people are willing to embrace risk and change and just foster an environment for innovation. And in our next slide, we will be talking about the differences between US and Canada. Um, so while there is a lot of similarity for both of these countries, we know that they are not the same. Canada has shown to focus more on like a bigger community as a whole rather than just them by themselves. Um, US holds a more individualistic and capitalistic approach to their like political systems. And the way we see this play out is in Canada, we have universal healthcare, which differs from the United States, which in the United States, healthcare is more dependent on your wealth, your social status, and even like you're reliant on employment benefits. And within official government, Canada states that they are more concerned with environmental stuff, multiculturalism, and inclusivity, which is different from the United States, where our government is more economy focused. And in general, Canada has an overall mentality of public responsibility. So they focus a lot on social issues, and they have not less, but they like to take care of their people more than the United States does. Um, so while the US and Canada are very similar, they're also slightly different. And this is something that should be highly considered when expanding into Canada. And I'll pass it on to Tyler for our next section.
Thank you, Jennifer. So after debate and with all the information at hand, our team decided that the best option for entry would be a wholly owned subsidiary. This, for those who don't know, a wholly owned subsidiary is for companies that wish to own 100% of the firm essentially that they're producing out in this other country. This will allow Nexus to have control over the aspects of operations taking place, giving them more autonomy as a company, control over operations, flexibility, and much more, while also allowing them to designate their own company leads, of course, as well as their managers and other important critical staff to make sure that business is being conducted as Nexus would want. However, with this information in mind, this does not mean that Nexus should neglect letting external eyes into their company to assist with smooth transitions and swift adaptation to slight differences in culture, as Jennifer just explained. Further, also allowing them to pull maybe on Canada's innovation and other companies' innovations towards battery, cold battery climate, as well as battery life and charging stations that are very critical, as Taha mentioned earlier. So while a wholly owned subsidiary is the main goal, this does not mean, like I said, Nexus should neglect not letting external eyes, especially within Canada, to help out. Furthermore, Canada is both a neighboring country, so geographically, it is easily accessible for resources to transfer between Nexus's home base and there, and the language barrier is mostly neglected or diminished purely by the fact that English is the most spoken language alongside French, which, to combat this, we will be adding a subdivision team that will address the French language being spoken there. And with this and other research, the culture comparisons that Jennifer just discussed between the United States, where Nexus is from, and Canada are are the same, but also have slight differences. But majorly nothing that will impede on their processes and businesses that they would want to do there. Culture, my bad. As well, Canada's culture cares deeply about inclusivity, as Jennifer mentioned, meaning that Nexus must ensure that they are being both inclusive in not only their hiring process, but throughout their sectors of their Canadian subsidiary. And as well, management must stay on their feet and uphold adaptation practices to ensure that they are being both inclusive as well as working together to promote team bonding to make sure operations go well. Moving on, we have risk management to wrap things up. Canada, foremost, is known for being environmentally conscious country, which is consistent with its rising popularity of EV drivers and the government's push for the zero emissions by 2035, and even their government incentives in